Got my Tim Hortons Canada coffee. See it. There
hmm
you go. Tim Hortons. Very
Exciting
famous.
day. It's an exciting day in Canada, Zan. Did you go home to vote?
I, yeah, yesterday's a voting day, right? I
Yeah, I'm
didn't
not sure
follow
about
that
the
at all.
time difference, but it's all over the news.
Yeah, right. It's all over the news, right? I think the Liberals got in again. Don't know what it means. I completely, like, I don't follow news at all. I block everything that looks like news because it, the modern news is addictive. It's addictive to watch what's happening in the world, and I just don't want to be sucked into it. So I don't follow anything. I just kind of hide from the
When did
news
you
cycle.
when did you take that decision?
Uh, Quite a while ago, like the whole thing with Elon Musk, Trump, and everything is it's really interesting, and because it's the world's changing, but it distracts me from my writing and the things I want to concentrate on. So I just bailed away from it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I had a couple of times where I decided I'm out of the news cycle and I wouldn't look at anything for a long period of time. And I mean, this goes back like 15 or 20 years, like the period when I was
me
traveling. I
too.
would just
Yeah, me too.
stop checking
It's
the news
tough.
websites. And because they don't get you on the whole propaganda machine, which is the radio, right? That
Yes.
comes through the car, that comes through the background of the office where you're working. I noticed that my mood steadily crept up higher and higher. And as soon as I would touch down in London after a year or two away, and they would put on the BBC radio, and then I'd go into my family's living room, and the TV would be on in the background, I'd notice my mood je- slowly start to spiral out of control. So that there's a weird dance
Yeah.
of wanting to keep up to date with it, but at the same time understanding that the whole thing um, uh,
I mean, but the
is
problem is
kind of
like
like
the
a toxin in the atmosphere to listen to. I
yeah,
think virtually all news outlets and alternative news outlets as well
but
at the same time.
the repetitiveness of it, like you if you turn off the news for 4 weeks and then turn it back on again, it feels like nothing shifted. Nothing's changed. I mean, there's some hallmarks. Like I tangentially know that the Pope died
hmm
because that's a standout event. But the rest is opinions and conversations and variations on a theme, And
Yeah,
you just sit there and listen to the variations on the theme and the different people's opinions who are, so I just yeah, I want to write. I want to concentrate my writing. So, and I've been traveling in Canada right now for whoever's listening, and I'm coming back to Bucharest, and our conference is coming up, so I got to prepare for that. I got my What Would Zan Do course coming up in 4 weeks. So I just news is not conducive to my productivity cycle. Put it
hmm
that way. Yeah.
So you're not in Canada for, there's no live meeting or live
No,
kind
I
of
came to
public talk that you're giving.
my sister had through created a family reunion for us, and so my brothers and sisters and I all got together. We had a big potluck dinner and a dance and fun and like a party, and all the relatives came together and just celebrated. My family does that now and then. My brothers and sisters, we grew up poor in the wilderness, all of us together in one room, kind of. And so we're very close. We went through a lot of trauma with foster homes and stuff, and got put back together. Very close to my brothers and sisters. So once a year, we try and get all together and play guitars,
Mm.
play games, we sing songs, play guitars, we harmonize. My sister's desire for this, it was kind of her birthday too, was to us all harmonize on some of the old songs we used to sing when we were kids. So so we did that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's fun.
A
Really
real
nice.
communion. A real communion in the way
Super.
that
Yeah.
doesn't seem to exist, right, in so many people's lives.
Super good for my heart, man. Really good for my spirit, my heart, and my energy, and makes you realize what we're trying to do with Ars Amrata and the importance of it. And like I said, that news cycle just doesn't align with that. It's just, yeah, the world's going, is in trouble, and there's all kinds of bad stuff in the world. But you know, let's see if we can create some artistic expression as with that
Mm.
as a backdrop. Like something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, a word that kind of spilt my way recently is refuge. Like you
Oh,
create
yeah, yeah.
an enclave or a refuge away from the tumult where something
Yeah.
real and vital can continue to exist.
They had that in ancient times, a city of refuge. If you accidentally murdered somebody or killed somebody manslaughter, you could run to one of these cities of refuge and you're safe, as long as you didn't leave the city.
I think they still have places like that. Depends on
Yeah.
whose side you're doing the bidding for. Should we get to the real content of the
Sure.
episode?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's go.
so one of, I mean, there's been a few themes that have bubbled up and caused a lot of comments and stir and interest around our conversation. And one of them is the concept that you have spoken about, particularly in your book, where you say beautiful women are secretly lonely.
Uh-huh.
So,
I talked about that today with somebody, but yeah, go ahead.
okay. So, if I speak about this personally, going back to before I met you, to think that beautiful women are secretly lonely feels impossible
Right.
because when you look at beautiful women, they're typically surrounded or
Social,
the
smiling.
the gates to status open for them. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're beautiful, come into our party, come and sit at our table. Oh, we've got this TV gig or some modeling that we would like you to do. And boom,
Yeah.
before you've had a chance to do anything, 18, 20-year-old girl is plucked and invited to some pretty
Yeah.
astronomical places that the 18 or 20-year-old boy is never going to get into
Mhm.
unless he steals his father's credit card or something like that, right? So it's like how it seems so distant. Um, or we have all these stories about beautiful women not being lonely. Um, so what do
Mhm.
you mean by this? Because it seems like beautiful women are surrounded by people if they're not lonely. Um, Also, what is a beautiful woman? I think that's part of the conversation. What do you actually mean by that? And is
Mhm.
it something different to the hot girl or the young one that's plucked out by the modeling agencies? And I think
Yeah.
the final question, I'll dump everything onto you and you see where you go. The final question is, how did you discover this?
Uh, okay, let me see if I can hit all your points. Um, I first of all, I discovered it by just my observation and conversation with women over the years. Just getting to know women, getting to know the experience of women. It's something that nobody talks about. I've never heard anybody say. My phrase is that beautiful women are secretly lonely. This is because they're not included in the lives of others. And and I mean, there's an Instagram reel of me saying that with a bunch, millions of views, and there's 4,000 comments, all from women saying, "How does this guy know this? This is my experience. This is 100% aligned with what I feel."
Yeah,
Um, Men will never understand that, and you tell it to men, they go, "This is not possible. Look at her.
yeah,
Look how popular she is. If I looked like her, I would." You have all the opportunities in the world, and so men will never understand this. And when you tell them that, they're almost offended and say, "How? Look at me compared to that girl. How can she be lonely or feel not included?" They're almost like that's not possible. So men don't get what I'm saying, and but women do, and because women that are okay. Let me go to the other point. You said, would you define that beautiful woman? I don't mean the one that is aesthetically arranged to the point of perfection, the Instagrammy attainment that we're trying to do. I don't mean the outward appearance to a degree, but when I talk about beautiful women, I also said in the book, there's a difference between beautiful women and hot women. Hot women are everywhere. Hot women can be purchased. I mean, they can purchase their hotness, right?
right.
They can implant and they can renovate and they can, uh, you know, construct things that makes them more um, conforming to that what society says today's modern standard of outward beauty is. I have a problem with when I talk about, Ars Amrata is the concept of restoring beauty in the world. We want to restore beauty in our relationships and our conversations because whenever the word beauty comes up, it's conflated with makeup and makeup artistry and beauty products. And and I don't mean that at all, obviously. I'm talking about Plato's and Aristotle's and, Socrates, their discourses on beauty, and Plotinus and stuff like that. So the philosophical phrasing of beauty. Um, so beautiful women, to me, are the ones that are empathetic and kind-hearted, and they never get a break. Do you understand? It's not their outward
Mm.
appearance, and men know this. We're attracted to the hot girls. Every guy's attracted to the hot girls. Yeah, because that gets their impulses flowing and they're flushing. But we stay and linger and contemplate and wonder about the ones who who are truly beautiful. In other words, they're inspiring to you as a man. They they make you want to be a better man. They make you want to they see the potential in you more than you see in yourself, and they can inspire that to you. So you feel like you're really really supported and really guided and really just really cared for and adored. That's what this beauty of women does. Um, that beauty and the beauty of appearance, because that is a beauty of appearance. Women that
Hmm.
have that innate in them they shine from within like the stars. They are beautiful to the eye of men. Um, you see that you see that in them. There's something different that draws your heart as a man. Now, men are superficial, and men want eye candy, and they'll get a girl with that has no depth at all, uh, but but they look good on their boat, for instance, right? so, so they'll do that, and women are superficial, and they go across the board. There's all superficiality, but the real artistry of a beautiful woman who wants to have an artistic life and a man who wants to have an artistic life, they see each other and they recognize kindred spirits across the way. But those women that have that beauty in them, innate beauty, are not included because they don't conform to the standards. Other women are jealous of them because of their spirit and because of their inner beauty. And other women, since they're in school, since they're 12 years old in school, they are other women are jealous of them and knock them down and do their best to try and denigrate them and knock them down. And men, all their lives, are intimidated by them, and so they're not included in. They're not men are not natural around them because they're trying to be in their best behavior, or they're trying to impress her, or they just don't talk to her until they're drunk and spitting on her. So a beautiful woman is not included in the lives of women because she shines above them and they can't stand that. It's truth. And she's not included in the lives of men because they don't they're intimidated by her and afraid um, of looking unworthy to her, so they don't show up to her.
Mm.
And every guy knows this because a woman that's quote unquote really super attractive to us, we get nervous and tongue tied and can't get it up. You know what I mean? All these like foibles. But a woman that we're not really attracted to, but she's fun, whatever. We are ourselves. We're joking. We have no problem. We have no intimidation and no nervousness, and the whole thing. So it's kind of like that. There's a
You said
nuance
one.
here.
You said one thing in that surprised me. You said in your first description of a beautiful woman, what is a beautiful woman? You said empathetic and kind, and then you said something like she can't get a break, or that life knocks her down, or she's somehow not
Yeah,
included. I was that struck me as
yeah.
being something a little bit different to the conversation that I hear. What do you mean about she doesn't get a break?
Okay, imagine a girl who's pretty in school and at 12, 13, 14 years old and just starting to get that social scene. She's got some friends and she's got, this is where you're starting to like boys and all this kind of stuff. So it starts there. But she's especially talented, especially pretty. Outside of her social circle of group of girls, they're going to be trying to knock her down a peg because of jealousy.
Mm.
And inside her social circle, there could be some element of that too. And so these women that have talent and empathy and kindness and have leadership qualities have to manage the expectation, or have to manage this assault on them, which is very real, and all through high school, all through um, their young years, they're navigating that. Women are trying to knock them down a peg because who she thinks she is, stand out. And men and boys from the very beginning are just completely tongue tied around her. So she doesn't feel like she wants to join in on the jokes and the fun and the camaraderie and relax too. But men get all tongue tied around her. Women are whisper behind her back and, and say things. And I'm generalizing. And some girls might say, well, it didn't happen to me.
Mm.
And, but I get that, but it's my sense. And when I have expressed it, men go, huh? How's that possible? I don't agree with you. And women go, that's true. That's been my experience, or I know about this in others' experience. So I think I've just expressed something that women all secretly know and have never really talk about, and men don't understand,
Mm.
which I've done a lot. And a lot of these things I say is that women get what I'm saying way more than men. Men will stand up at the end of my talks. I don't agree. You said this, blah blah, but I think women are blah blah blah. And I say, okay, tell me about your relationship you have right now. Well, I don't have one right now. Tell me about your last one. Well, it's been a long. Okay, you don't have to agree with me. I'm not asking for consensus, and I don't really care. And I'm not going to convince you at all. I'm not going to say, oh no, let me explain. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You carry on. You're doing well. You don't have a relationship or whatever, right? But it's men who doubt me, and women initially doubt me until they hear what I say. I've talked to feminist groups many times. I've talked to just women, 60 women in a room. And at the beginning, they're like, I don't know about this. Who do you think you are? I don't agree with and at the end of it, they're thinking, you know what? We've known this for years. We've been trying to tell men this for years. So these are one of the things that I keyed on, that I said about women and their experience. Just my observation. I'm obviously not a woman, and I'm obviously not going to put words in a woman's mouth. And maybe I'm wrong in the way I look at her to see it, but it hit a nerve when I said that beautiful women are secretly lonely, and because women understand what I'm saying, they go, "Yep, I get it," and they wish they could be included.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Am I explaining it well?
Yeah, it does. I mean, as you're speaking, big part of me is going back to my school days and remembering some of these kind of playground lunchful
Right.
dynamics, which is there are several different social groups and everyone's got their place and everyone's got their internal pecking order, which is always that landscape's always being rearranged at school. And then I'm thinking of certain women that are a bit like, I don't quite know how to categorize you or where you fit or what box to put you in.
Yeah.
Or quite and the next part is I don't quite know what to do with you. Like the hot girls we know what to do with, or these girls we know what to do with, or these boys we know what to do with. Everyone, by
Yeah.
putting themselves in a box, has their what they're about or what they're useful for becomes very clear to the world, right? And that can help them
Yes.
be very successful, not necessarily authentic, but there's a clarity to it. But there are some people that kind of get missed, or they don't
Yeah.
get categorized, and they float between worlds a little bit, and I can remember this kind of beauty. So, is this what you're talking about? It's a specific category. Is it more? There's a specific category of women that can't be categorized, and therefore, by their uh, opaqueness and difficulty to put in a box,
Yeah.
they live in this other category called beautiful, beautiful and unseen. Let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you talking about a particular minority of women who are beautiful, uncategorizable, and unseen, which is a new category that we're naming now? Or are you talking about every woman actually who might be in a category who experiences some of what you're talking about in a more subtle way. Like I go out every Friday night with all the hot girls, and then I go home and I kind of reflect a little bit and think, God, that's not really who I am.
Well, there's a, there's a lot of really pleasing to the eyes type of girls that are not nice and act superior. We know this. So they knock others down, and they're like, I'm beautiful and you're not, so whatever, right? And I'm not talking about that because they look good. Um, and every guy thinks he looks good, but there's something about them that is ugly. That's not nice. That judgmental spirit, which is not nice. And so their outward appearance is pretty, but they don't have this beauty that I'm talking about, which is yeah, this minority of women that don't want to be caught up in the superficiality of fitting in, of gossiping and knocking other groups down to the benefit of their group. They don't want to be that girl. They don't want to be involved in that, and so they're automatically attacked because they don't want to be that, and they're not included. And the other ones, out of their insecurity and realizing that they are offside in their judgment, they try and knock her down because, like I said, who does she think she is to not gossip like we do? So, like I said, I'm not a woman, and I'm just observing what I have learned from speaking to and quality time with a bunch of women, and you realize that they have this sense of not belonging, I guess you could say, beautiful and unseen. And there's a spectrum there and a nuance, and it's hard to describe this. We're struggling around it, but it's very real. And they don't want to be judgmental. And so because you're not judgmental like the rest of us, we're going to knock you down because you're not caught up in the same trends and things that we're caught up in. You're an outsider. You're not included. And anyone with an artistic mind and wants to have an empathetic experience and wants to be non-judgmental and has been taught by her mother and father or whatever, or childhood, to be kind to others, she's got beauty. So it's like, and ugliness attacks beauty, you know. And I'm not talking ugly women as in ugly faces and ugly hair. I don't mean that at all. I mean ugly spirit. Ugly
Yeah.
spirit attacks good, kind spirit, you know. So
I think you've started to put a real definition onto what you mean by a beautiful woman.
okay, yeah,
And um, I mean, I'm really asking these questions to clarify this for the men in our audience. I'm not quite sure
that's
what
true.
questions the women watching this might want to hear, and I would like to know. But from the male point of view, the what you're naming as beauty is kindness, non-judgmentalism,
Non-judgment, yeah. That's the
the
big
desire.
thing.
Yeah.
That's the big thing is that women feel judged, unfairly judged, and men judge them, and women judge them, and it's a constant. They're all and the opposite of judgment is generosity of spirit, and really wanting to allow them to be seen in your presence. That's what we're talking about. That's what the book The Alabaster Girl is about. That type of man who really sees women and wants them to feel welcomed in his presence and never judged for anything. Oh, she's not a nice girl, or she's easy, or any of that stuff. It's
Mm.
like it's the opposite. And when you have that opposite spirit, and you have that wanting to reach out and wanting to be included, and I have that because I know what it's like to not be included. You know, I was a dork, and I was not welcomed at all, and I just can't abide it if somebody is judged unfairly. If somebody's not a
Mm.
nice person, yeah, I cast them out of my presence too. I don't want them around me. I'm not gonna. It's not my job to save the world, to encourage everybody to be, um, but somebody who's unfairly judged for no reason, that I can't abide it. Makes no sense to me.
So is it as clear as saying that the difference between a beautiful spirit and an ugly spirit is judgmentalism?
Yes. Yeah. I 100% would say that is the essence of it. Yeah. The core
And the
essence of it.
opposite and the opposite of judgmentalism, or what is there in the absence of judgmentalism, is kindness.
Kindness, no. Kindness could be, you can be kind to a cat. I think I call it generosity of spirit. One can be generous with your spirit so that they feel included, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel like they matter too. I'm not a charitable guy. I'm not like altruistic and want to, but I do want in my presence people to feel that they were not left out.
Hmm.
Something like that, I would not, I'd feel really bad if I had a gathering in my apartment and somebody felt like they were not included in the conversation and they weren't included in the fun and the guitar playing and the jokes and stuff like that. Nobody was talking to friends. I can't. I instantly like will stop what I'm doing and try and pull them in. Hey, come! You got to meet these people. What's your name again? And pull them in because I know what it's like to that I can't abide. And it's generosity of spirit. I think is the opposite of judgmentalism. And judgmentalism is the worst quality a man or woman can have. There's some absolutes for you.
It seems to me that the kind of beauty that you're describing um, is the the person that possesses it or emanates it or is open to it, is open to the beauty coming through, radiating through themselves. They act as this kind of mirror in the world, which I sense makes it very difficult for them. Which is on the one hand, like you
Mm,
talk about the cynical, kind of highly judgmental, ugly pecking order behavior
yeah,
that so many of us go into. On
yeah.
the woman's front, it's like to be in that world of hotness, I think is a compensation for not feeling that within. There's some kind of shame or wound or really feeling that you're
Well,
ugly
it's
within. So
insecurity for sure. Yeah,
so
yeah,
so you would try and compensate for that and be
yeah,
the hot girl according to all of the trends and embody that better than anyone else. And that's a contest to be high on the pecking order and not low. If you look at a beauty, it's like here is a person who seems to me to not have this kind of dark edge or this self-hatred at the root of her, and because of that, I can't stand it. I think
yes.
that kind of projection describes a lot of the dynamic. And then within men, it's kind of like, um, well, who the hell am I to even try and speak to her? How
Right.
how 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 do I do this?
Yes.
Um, I've got no clue. Unless I would say unless you've done a deep inventory on your self-worth and what you can bring to women and who you are
Right.
and what you've lived through, or you're just in a flow state one summer and you just happen to kind of get wrapped up without thinking too much. You end up in the company of a woman like this. You can really connect because you know what you bring to the table and you can have
Yeah.
curiosity. But I think for most men it's kind of like, how would you even get to know a person like this who has this like you say there's a glimmer or a light that is beautiful and we feel actually quite bewildered and unsure that we've got anything to bring to the table. If you're a man in this circumstance, how do you get to know a woman who
Well,
is
if you're
beautiful
a
in this way?
man, if you're a man like our listeners and our audience is, that the people that tune into what you and I are saying, which is not very many, because it's only a few people that have this treasure-seeking soul. And if you are dedicated to maximizing your spiritual journey and get the most that you can out of life as a story-driven narrative, we've talked many times, you and I, you're that kind of a guy, you're automatically attracted to that type of woman, and they're automatically attracted to you. It's
Hmm.
you find that you will discover that the women you're attracted to and that come into your life have that sense of inner beauty. And if you are that guy, most guys, and no knock on them, but most guys are trying to figure it out aesthetically. That means they have an aesthetic job that looks cool. They go to the gyms aesthetically so that they look good. They, as opposed to say for longevity or health reasons, they want to look good, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking that at all. And they want their woman to match up to that aesthetic thing as well, so that they look good and they look cool. And her personality and et cetera are secondary to that, because they just need, I need something that looks good on my arm when I go into these events, for instance, right? And I don't knock anything like that. But if you are a treasure bound mystical seeker, you want to know about the mysteries of life, and you're curious about the transcendent qualities of life and of music and art, etc., you're going to be drawn to and attracted to women who have that, are of the same bent. Which, and I think an artistic expression, our artistic desire is beauty. So if you have that, and I don't mean becoming an artist, I mean just having an idea that your life is a piece of art, and you're creating an artwork. You might be raising 3 children, but you view it as a masterpiece that you're trying to produce. You're trying to create this masterpiece. That's good. So, and you might be working at the factory as you raise these 3 children, but you still look at this as something that magnificent you're trying to paint. So that's the artistic expression. And you'll be drawn to women that have that, and women will be drawn to you, and you will find these type of women. Now, with the modern age of swiping and Tinder, you might have to go through a few steps before you run into that woman, as opposed to you meet her at a coffee shop or a park or art galleries and that, where you kind of feel the essence of her in the natural, in the now, and you get drawn to something about the way she moves. You can't see that on Tinder. The way she moves, the way she smiles, the way she turns, the way her hair sways. You're attracted to that. So, and I think, this. I'm not knocking anybody's desire, but I am knocking misogyny and men who are trying to manipulate women, and I'm not and men who are judgmental, yeah, and women too. Women who are judgmental, they're terrible. They're terrible people. I don't want to be around that. So, like, I can't imagine my girl being mean to somebody in a bar that came up and said, "Hey, can I buy you a drink?" I, I, to be really ugly mean to him, like a lot of women are, like, can you leave me alone? I'm with my friend here, that kind of stuff, right? I wouldn't want something like that in my life. I'm not drawn to them. I'm not attracted to them. People say, well, but maybe she's a nurse in the daytime, and she's at the bar, she's putting up guards and stuff like that, and maybe she's a really sweet girl. No, she's not. Not if she's being mean to somebody. If somebody's being an ass and spitting on them, yeah, please leave me alone. They got boundaries. That's different. But just to be mean out of spite, and I think there's a lot of that from men and from women. Men are judgmental, and this is why we talked about in our conversation last week, the idea that there's a type of man who doesn't count. And one of the number one qualities that they have, and women say, yeah, that's just him. He gets a free ride. I open up to him my heart, my soul, my bed, everything, because it's him, because he doesn't judge. He will not judge me. I can go to bed with him, for instance, and I won't feel judged the next day, or that he's going to tell all his buddies. That's the idea of not kissing and telling, right? Real honorable men, they would never kiss and tell. Guys say, well, I want to learn. Yeah, you should share with your friends what you experienced. No, you shouldn't. And so the true gentleman never kisses and tells, because he knows that it's a judgment on her from others. And if she feels in your presence that there's no judgment ever going to come from you or ever any of this kind of stuff. You're the man who doesn't count. It's the way it works. It's absence of judgment because women are highly judged from women and men constantly. You know, as Johnny always says, if there's one thing men and women can agree on, it's that you can't trust women, which is funny in itself, but it's true. Women will agree, yeah, you can't trust women. Men agree, yeah, you can't trust women.
All right, so I've got something I'll share with you, and then a couple of questions to round this
Okay,
out, because I want to give something practical as well to our listeners who are like, okay, I get it, I
let's do
get
it.
this high philosophy and this perspective, but what do I actually do? So my experience with this kind of beautiful woman that was speaking about is that many of such women have accepted my invitations and have spent time with me. Many, since
Yeah.
long before I was ready to have this in my life. And one of the experiences that I had with this kind of beautiful woman is she would accept my invitations and come with me and spend time with me, actually, despite some of the surface level cheesy bullshit I was trying to do to make something happen with her,
Okay.
right? And she might giggle and come along anyway, and maybe even see the goodness in my attempts. But some of the reflection, because I think, like, one thing that this kind of beauty has is incredible perception. And she knows if you are putting on a bit of a mask or hiding something or trying to appear in some way that you're actually not. She'll
Yes.
see right through it. So one of the things that that happened to me again and again and again is the woman like this, just waiting for me to stop doing the thing that was clearly a bit of a charade,
Yeah.
which actually has an incredible forgiveness in it when I think back of it now. Like I'm trying to be this cool guy, maybe flirtatious, seductive in a way that is putting on a show, and she's kind of tolerating that, knowing that underneath I'm a better person than what I'm presenting. And like the forgive her forgiveness for this dynamic is amazing, and the fact that I've had a lot more time with women like this, the time that I've had with women like this has been pretty incredible. Some of the best learning I've had along the way is when women actually reflect. This is when I don't feel you, Jordan, or this is actually when
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel you a lot more. So that keys me in. That shows me bit by bit how to appear a little bit more authentic than I have been before. And that's been the learning that I've had. Um,
Because you're drawn, Jordan, to the type of woman, because I know you, you're drawn to the
yeah.
type of woman who is reflecting, who is reflective on her experiences and is thinking about her own journey. And so she does have perception around these types of things to give you feedback, where a lot of women don't have that. They're not self-reflective, and so they don't have this perspective feel. But I know you're drawn to this type of woman who can give you some feedback and can give you something that is helpful in the way you've related to her, which is cool.
So here's a couple of questions to finish up with. The first one is put yourself in the perspective of a guy who is restarting his dating life again and he's struggling to get it out of first gear, let's say. It's like, hello, where are you from? Send a couple of text messages, get on the first date. But first of all, how does he get to know a woman like this and start to touch into this more meaningful level? What does he say? What does he do? How do you breach the divide from two strangers
Yeah.
stuck in the shyness of the superficiality around because they're shy? How do you actually how do you connect? How do you get to know her? That's one question. And the second question would be, let's say I want to have a better dating experience and I want to be non-judgmental, but I am judgmental in a few ways. How do I actually get rid of that? Because the judgmental thoughts come up and they cloud my perspective and they
Well,
happen anyway. How do I work
let,
through that?
let's make a distinction between judgment and taste, as
Uh-huh.
Immanuel Kant did. Taste is something that you have to be discerning, and you have to have boundaries, and you have to cast aside things that are not aligned with. So you have to be tasteful in your judgment, or in your forward momentum. You choose things that are aligned with your spirit and what you want in a woman, for instance, and you cast aside the ones that don't have it. Just cast them aside. And that's not judgmental. That's being taste. That's fostering taste and decorum and boundaries. Boundaries are huge, you know, like, and as we know, it's another podcast probably. But the idea is that if I was starting out fresh as the guy in your example, if you're dedicated to your journey, maybe it's a cliche to say, I don't know, but if you just express that I'm dedicated to my journey, I want to know my next phase of life. I'm 40 years old. I was married for 15 years, and now it's that ended a year ago, and now I'm on a date with you, and I want to maximize my experience in life, and I want to be the best forward flavor of me that I can be. And you're expressing that.
Mm.
You can say, listen, I have not had sex with another woman in 16 years because I was with my woman for 15 years. And I'm new to this scene and I'm trying to understand my mojo again. And I'm on a date with you. That's a powerful thing to say.
Mm.
That's forward expressing. It's not needy. It's not, I suck and hope you like me. It's expressing that I don't know my forward path and I want to know. And I saw you and I invited you on this date because you look like something that I'm drawn to towards that future me. That's how
Yeah,
you express that. That's a good thing because she
that's
wants
a
to be caught up in something like that too. And
that's a
and you just said I've been with one woman for 15 years. I don't have any sexual experience except for her. And it's not a needy thing at all. So you
what you
just expressing that.
yeah, what you've said is actually a filter because a lot of men will try and say something like this and then come back and say, well, it didn't work. But it sounds like I can imagine saying something like that, and to the ears of a judgmental woman, she's like, oh, that's not kind of what I want to hear from the kind of guy that I imagine myself dating.
Right.
And but to the ears of a person who is non-judgmental,
That's right.
that is the invitation in itself to
That's right.
actually connect
That's
in a
right.
deeper conversation.
I I
There we
wrote it
go.
in the Alabaster Girl that if you diss your ex and say, like you're on a new date and say, yeah, my ex sucked. I was with her for 15 years and I just couldn't wait to get away from her. And she was all the problem and I wasn't any of the problem. And now here I'm with you. What she's hearing is that could be me in the future. You've given me, saying bad things about me. Real gentlemen would say, you know what? We did a 15 year. We were in love at the beginning. We tried our best. Didn't work. We went our separate ways, and they're honorable in the way they talk about their exes. Women can feel that, and women understand that. And like you said, the jealous, petty ones who are jealous about your ex might like be judgmental about it, but the ones who are not will understand that you tried to do a marriage for 15 years. You did your best, didn't work, right? And nobody taught you how to do it, so you tried. You did your best. Your best guess when you're 15 years ago was to marry this girl. That was your best guess in life. That was my best choice that I could possibly think of, and it didn't work out. You can't knock your path. You don't disparage meager beginnings, as the Bible says. And and that's an understandable thing to say. And say, I dedicate myself to that. It didn't work, and I'm here with you. So you're right. It's the right type of woman will understand what you're saying, and the other ones would be jealous of your ex,
Mm.
right? That's why
Mm.
guys think they have to knock their ex because you're more beautiful than her. You're not her. You understand me better. You listen better than my ex did. Blah blah. She did all this bad stuff. But that doesn't work. You're trying to build her up by comparing her to this evil queen that you were with. And a gentleman would praise the woman he was with, and it didn't work out. And now I'm here with you for a new stretch, a new phase of my life, and it could be something magnificent. I don't know. I just met you, so it's a different flavor, man.
The something that would be useful to a lot of the men that I've worked with in coaching and my former self as well is the way I asked you, how would you get to know such a woman, right?
Yeah,
And
you asked that. Yeah,
and yeah, the example you gave was 100% a sharing of the current narrative, the the current kind of state of play, and the earnest sharing
right.
of where you are in your lifelong story. is 100% a share from you towards her or towards the conversation
And
that you're
it's wrapped
having.
in curiosity, which is the main thing. You're curious about your future, as opposed to I have to start over again. Everything
Yeah.
crashed and failed. Now I got to start over again.
So
That's not it.
a former me would always have been searching for a more clever question to try and reel out more answers or more secrets or more something from the
Yeah,
beautiful woman to try and get to know, while actually not sharing what my story was. So it's interesting that it's not how to get to know a person is not actually you getting the information out of the person or taking their kind of psychological clothes off or getting their emotions out. It's actually full scale you going first and announcing this is who I am.
that's
And
right.
this is something I virtually never see men do in a compelling way.
Yeah, that's right. Because you
It's
know what it is?
all how do I guard myself while picking the lock
Yeah,
of her? And the men
that's
who are
right.
good at that become something like a puppet master, but it's not satisfying. It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
the
good
willingness
said.
to share everything from your own side.
This spirit of non-judgmentalism applies to yourself too. You you tried a marriage for 15 years, it didn't work out, and instead of judging yourself and regret is a sin. Nobody teaches us how to do life. You know, you're doing your best, bet. You're trying to be liked. You're trying to be funny. You're trying to be interesting. You're trying to have a good experience. You try to have a good marriage with a girl, it didn't work. You can't judge yourself either. You know.
Is it possible to be non-judgmental towards other people while being judgmental to one's own self?
uh, the pat answer would be no. No, you can't. But I don't know. I never thought about it before.
We'd have to unpick that a little bit more.
Makes
But
sense though.
it's interesting you saying this right here because if I'm judging myself all the time, um, there's a practice of judgment going on. The judgment is in the air.
Yes. Yeah, I think it. Yeah, because
So maybe the first person to stop judging is yourself before not judging other people.
well, that I've been saying for years, you you need to forgive yourself because nobody else is going to. Forgive yourself for your all these seeming mistakes because you're a student of life and no one teaches us how to do life. You know, you went and talked to a girl and you said hello to her and she's not interested, and you go home and you beat yourself up. If you reflect on that, nobody taught you how to do this. Was your effort sincere? Did you really want to go say hi to her and really want to compliment her and really want to ask her to for her phone number or go on a date? Yeah, that was sincere. You can that's an honorable thing. Didn't work out because she's not interested or she's mean or whatever.
What happens into adulthood then in the lifetime of a beautiful woman as you're describing her here? What happens in her 20s and her 30s and 40s and 50s? Is it that she's forever beautiful and forever lonely? I mean, if I think about the beautiful women I've known, um, they're not entirely lonely, but maybe there's a piece of them that might know loneliness at times. I'm curious how you would describe it.
Yeah, I think that she's in for a lifetime of being side-eyed and not completely included, judged. Um, but you know, she might find somebody who's just an absolute mirror of her and a beautiful person as partner, where she doesn't feel unincluded, doesn't feel lonely. She might find a group of friends who are aligned with that too. So I'm not saying I'm making a blanket statement,
Yep.
but in general, she's going to feel not included because women are going to look at her sideways and secretly judge her in general, and men certainly are too. So um, I can't tell you how many women that I've known that are just spectacular beauties, and they've told me, they told me no man ever asked me out. No man ever come. I'm lonely. How come all the other girls have boyfriends and no guy will ever ask me out?
Mm.
And they don't know why. But it's because the men think that she's obviously got a boyfriend. Look at her. I don't have a chance with her. You know, I remember this bartender one time. moved to Canada from the States, and I was going to the bar all the time, so I kind of would sort of say hi to her, sort of thing, and I was leaning on the bar, and I got up my nerve one night after about a long time, and I got up my nerve, and I asked her if she would want to go on a date with me, which took me like days to build up my thing to this. Right, I was always in there; she was always working, and this beautiful girl who was out of my league in my mind, quote unquote, looked at me, smiled, and was almost in shock and awe and said, I would love to. She said, you know what? I've been working here for 4 months. No man has asked me out. Why not me? Nobody's asked me out. And you're the first guy that asked me out.
Mm.
Incredible. So, I remember that. I'm thinking, really? And she was one of the first ones that ever got me to the knowledge to know that these women that are not included and men don't ask them out because they think, oh, number one, she's got a boyfriend for sure. Look at her. And number two, I'm not tall enough, rich enough, good looking enough, dressed well enough, nice car enough for her. Because look at her. They just assume it right off the jump.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I learned that. And I didn't go to high school. So I didn't, I'm not saying, oh, this is what I've observed in high school. I didn't, it's what women have told me, what I've observed and what I've intuited. So, but I've been in a lot of bars and I've seen a lot of bar interactions for sure.
It all backs up your basic teaching, which is if you're drawn to somebody, you have to show up. You have to just
You have to.
invite
And
and put yourself forward.
I was shocked that she would say yes and that she was joyful that I asked her. I was shocked. Me? I thought I was going to be rejected for sure. And I thought for sure she had a boyfriend. But I just said, I was trying to learn. And I said, I got to figure this out. And I asked her, and I was not prepared for a response, which is like, I would love to go on a date with you. And nobody asked me out for 4 months. And I'm thinking, why not? Why not me?
Yeah.
Incredible.
I tell you what, I mean, I want to say this, this goes back a long, long time, but it's kind of a testimonial. After I met you and worked with you in Brazil, we had like 8, 9 days in a group, a kind of mini community. We did a retreat, and I'm kind of shaking off the dust, the 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 cobwebs and the dust of my own shame and my own difficulty to speak beautiful
Wow.
compliments to women. When I would compliment, I remember being a young child and my mum would put on her earrings and her lipstick, and I would say, "Oh, that's beautiful lipstick. That's really pretty." I'd just see it and then comment on the shine and the light and that she looked nice. And she would say, "What do you want?" As if the only reason a man would compliment a woman is because he wanted something, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's
so that
funny.
that was her perception of men and her perception of reality and compliments and attraction and so on. And I took that
Wow.
with me, and I found it so. Anyway, it took me a few weeks to, and longer in some ways, to shake off this conditioning. But once I did that, within a month, within 6 weeks of um, meeting you and the Amorati and being involved in this message, I would say I routinely started dating women that I'd always considered way above my league.
Way above.
Just
Yeah, that's perfect.
just because I took a punt, and then I'm like astonished actually
The
how
response.
virtuous and beautiful she was once I got to know her. Yeah.
You pulled the trigger. You'd be shocked what happens if you pull the trigger into what women are, their experience that they're really having and they're lonely and nobody's asking them out.
Yeah. And one of the cool things that I take away from this podcast actually is you showing up in a sincere way is actually a filter. And the rejection is less on you, the way you show up, and more on her judgmentalness. Because if you show up in any way with a really beautiful woman, you're going to be
Yeah.
embraced, even if she says no,
Yeah.
that's just not possible for me. I'm
Even a
with
married
somebody.
woman say, I can't, it's not possible, but thank you so much for being real and being you and
Yeah.
making me feel pretty. I appreciate that. And now she goes home and bangs her husband because of you.
So you're adding to the net flow of uh,
Yeah. You're adding to the
love
goodwill of the
and
world.
vitality, positive karma, merit. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So
All right, Jordan.
if you enjoy the episode, links in the bio for the membership and also for the newsletter. So if you don't read, we send out most weeks a newsletter with these kinds of themes. Make sure you're signed up to it. And Zan, you mentioned that you're running your live week again in Bucharest. That's
I
coming up.
am. Yeah, it's filling up because I'm keeping it to a small contingent of a small band of brothers, and it's filling up. So, but contact me. I'm easy to find. Contact me on WhatsApp. Well, contact me on Facebook or something. Message me, email me, and we'll see if there's room for you and if you're interested. So yeah, my live event in Bucharest. It's all exercises. It's eye contact, how to touch, all those kind of stuff without being seen and being known. Subterfuge, the whole nine. Conspiracy, secret garden. I love it.
Oh,
I'm Zan Perrion. Sign up for membership, amorati.net. AMORATI.net.
beautiful. Thanks, Zan.